Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. Coming towards the end of June. Time is screaming by. It is absolutely screaming by, and it's been so long since we've been on the plot together. It's been about 2 weeks since the last plot tour, and despite the lack of videos and despite the hay fever, I have been very busy on the plot and I've actually got an awful lot done. That last tour video, I wasn't feeling too great. You know, there's a lot of challenges this year. It is still not, it's still pretty far from perfect, but I am feeling a bit more positive because of the work that I've done. There is so much to show you. I've just come up here today, it's the afternoon. I did come up this morning and do a little spot of watering because we've just been away for a conference in Manchester, but I just had to show you in the greenhouse, and the chilies. They're looking so healthy now. The ones in the quad grow have really picked up at the back. I did have calamity, and you will have seen from the thumbnail. This is not what's in the thumbnail. This was a little bit that snapped off when I was trying to support this Korean pepper, my goshu. It's grown like a triffid. It's really nice, healthy plant, and I just needed a bit more support, and I was trying to tuck this into the wires, and it just snapped. They do get quite brittle when they get big, but it's still a really healthy plant. So you've seen in the thumbnail there's some mysterious chili damage. We'll get to that. That is in the polytunnel. This one I'm not too worried about. Everything looking really nice in here. If anything, I've got a few too many kind of early peppers. I had my first ripe pepper the other day. That was from a beaver dam. Oh no, what's this? Something has been inside this one. I think that might be slug damage, you know. There's a little bit of a trail on there. Can you see that? I think that might be slug damage, which is a bit unusual. I don't tend to get much slug damage on my chilies. What's this one? That's one of my deep beaver dam plants. So apparently the slugs like that one. My other beaver dam is up here, and this is the one that was ripe early. Scallywags looking okay. I'm just leaving these in small pots, but look, we've got some pods coming on there. This is the beaver dam that was ripe, and this is such a nice bushy healthy plant. It's so dense. There's some peppers growing inside there, and can you see that one as well drooping down there? Oh no, you can't, there's leaves in the way. Really nice, good sized pepper on there. And I actually thought that was a sweet pepper when it was ripe, because it wasn't shaped like the beaver dam, which are quite long. It was shaped exactly like a bell pepper. I bit into it and I was wowed by the flavour. That beaver dam tastes exquisite, like sweet like honey almost, you know, like candy floss sweetness. Absolutely delicious. But it was followed by a bit of a tingly lip, and I'm just very glad that it's only a mild chili. I think it must be like 2,000-3,000 Scoville maybe, but when I got that first bit of heat I was a bit like, oh no, what have I done, what have I eaten? It was all fine. In the greenhouse there is something else to just mention. I have done more beans. Well, Jess sowed these for me actually while I was doing something else. So these are what's left of the yin yang beans. I'm really hoping these don't go the way that the last ones did. I might move those up to the top in a day or two. And I've got a load more salad in coming. This is a really nice iceberg lettuce. Just letting it germinate in the greenhouse, and then it will go outside because they do not want to be in the heat. Some of the brassicas struggling in the heat again, but last time I put these outside they got slugged immediately. So I'm just going to leave them in there for maybe a day or two, and then hopefully put them out. I think they missed a watering. And then put them out in that little netted cold frame that I've got for them. There's a rogue tomato in here. Incredible. But yes, most of the work, I've got so much to show you. Not too much going on in the beds. The brassicas doing okay. The cabbages are bedded in. They're very late going out though, so probably going to be too hot for them. A few of the beetroot plants, what? How did they survive? I thought they were goners. This bed looks incredible if you don't look too closely. But so much salad in here. Lovely salad bed. The broad beans are kaput. I tried to keep on top of the black fly, but they have just gone absolutely wild this year. And I think if you don't get it right at the start, they can just grow exponentially. And you can see all of these are wilted, and that's not due to a lack of watering. That's because of aphid damage and just the pest bird, and it's killed the plants off, basically. Got a nice little tray of squashes and courgettes. These are looking healthy. I've just taken these out of the greenhouse because they're looking a bit wilty, just getting a little bit too hot. Once again, this isn't mist watering. Oh, that's just heat. I think it's too hot for them in there. The summer has arrived, hasn't it? It's really starting to hot up. The beans, oh, wow. Yeah, it's not great, to be honest. These have not moved too much. These are fattening up a little bit. Some of the Kalima in here But yeah, I don't want to look at those too long because I'll get depressed. Some of the flowers have really come out looking incredible. Little verbena there. So, second greenhouse. This is where the work has been done. This, last time you saw, was still full of shelves and, you know, kind of storage for seedlings. And goodness me, look at this. The ground is all planted up now. We've got tomatoes at the back. There's even a chili pepper in there. That's looking a bit wilty, I'll show you that. But down here we've got this aubergine. This is the garden centre aubergine, which keeps wilting. I'm not sure. I thought that aubergines would quite like it in a greenhouse. They'd like it hot, but it's not doing too well. It seems to perk up when I water it. So I think it just needs to get its roots a little deeper. This ground has been really well watered, but those roots need to find that water lower down. I think there's a little sweet potato back there. This might be a little bit of a mistake. I might come to regret this. But originally, the plan with the sweet potatoes was to let them go under the tomatoes in the polytunnel. I decided not to do that because the tomatoes in the polytunnel, as you'll see at the end, fantastic, but very, very densely planted. And putting sweet potatoes into that mix is just, it's asking for trouble. So instead of doing it in the polytunnel, I'll do it here, where they're just as densely planted. I've left probably not enough room for these tomatoes, but less of an impact than having it across the whole polytunnel where there's just dozens and dozens of tomato plants. We've got a few different cucumber varieties and a few different tomato varieties. I have noticed this year the labels are washing off really, really quickly, which doesn't normally happen. That one looks fine. So what I did, and what I recommend you do, is if you're doing similar, using labels like this, just go around with your phone, film a quick 2-minute video of you rushing around, looking at all the labels, and just note where each of the varieties are, so that later on, if you get confused or you've got some mysteries, then you can refer back to that video. I haven't been on the side shooting in here, so these look really dense, but they do need a bit of side shooting. We've got some Rosella, which look like a really nice cherry, and then there's a few green tomatoes in here actually. Green Doctor, this one is the spoon tomato, should be fun. And in here, this is the chili. This is a Thunder Mountain Longhorn, and wow, look at this. Ooh, okay, this is not looking healthy actually, and there's a lot of aphids on here, which is not something I normally see late in the season, this late in the season. So I might have to give these a little bit of a neem oil treatment. But I'll just keep an eye on that and hopefully it won't get out of control. Ah, heartbreak, no! No, okay, so that one was my Sartre Relays, meant to be one of the nicest tasting tomatoes, and unfortunately I don't know when it happened, but during the planting out, I got it all planted out in the ground, and then at the end of the day I looked at it and it just snapped clean off. I must have kind of knocked it maybe when I was putting that sweet potato tub in or something. So I was really hoping it might kind of carry on. It had a little green shoot on there, but it looks like it's been slugged, and I put the top in the soil as well. Probably should have just put it in a glass of water and waited for it to root, but I thought it might root. Unfortunately, it has not. So that's not ideal, but not the end of the world. It's probably a good idea to give that chili pepper lots of space. Putting a tomato behind it was a little bit ambitious. I've gone for a mixed kind of support this year. I've got like this at the back, which is really strong. I've just lashed a few canes together with some twine. Really, really strong. And at the front, I didn't want to do the same thing because once you've got crosses, you can't kind of lean in. You can't get in to prune and harvest and all that kind of stuff. So I've just tied these ones in. But if needs be, I can just string a bit across there and kind of support the tomatoes that way. I've got a few more Black Moon spares in here. They're a bit abused, a bit neglected, to be honest. Is that a tomato? No, that's a leaf. Great job, JB. The sweet potato back here has really started to grow. It was a little bit slow to get going, but I've put that in a 30-litre kind of potato tub, and it's away now. It is doing its thing. I've done the same thing here, a little bit of lashed, kind of quite strong support for the little teepee there. And I'm trying to keep this under control, but I've got a feeling it won't be long until it's sprawling absolutely everywhere. This thing grows like bindweed. Got some basil. I really need to plant that out, but that's fantastic, moving in the right direction. A few forgotten chili peppers up here. Whoops, I really do need to do something with these. This is a Gangstar Lemon Starburst and Primatali Red. And I had some gaps in the polytunnel because most of the chili peppers are potted up now. And I had a few gaps and I was like, oh, what's gone on there? And it was almost definitely for these. I forgot about them. But looking really healthy, they just need potting on. Lots of flowers on there when we still don't want flowers when they're in little pots like this. And down here, there's a few more. I mean, there's a dead tomato that needs to go. But there's a few more sweet potato slips that I'm probably going to just bung into a bed outside and hope for a good summer. There is some beetroot under there as well that I'd forgotten about. That can go out. We'll see if it does anything. So yes, the produce in there is small. There's a few jobs, a few things to plant out. Cucumbers just starting to move. Tomatoes looking healthy, still on the small side. I did the thing the other day where I went back to a video like a year previous, you know, same date a year ago. Tomatoes in here were rocketing away. They were already coming up to kind of, you know, chest height. Just a slow year, but we'll get fruit. We'll get fruit from those, I'm sure. Well, I hope so, unless something goes wrong. So it just feels incredible to have this greenhouse all planted up. When I got that done, I got the chilies potted on. I'll show you those. Just big relief, massive, massive relief. And then back to the beds. These peas, I was a bit confused in the last tour about what they actually were. I had no idea. Turns out I'm pretty sure they're sugar snap peas. So eating the pod on its own and eating the peas on its own wasn't that nice, but weirdly, when you combine them and actually just take a bite out of the whole thing, it definitely works. But I've been really lax on the harvesting, so they are all going to get harvested today. Got really nice, look at this. That's a really nice iceberg. That's what the saladin look like when they go right. Really nice iceberg lettuce there. Down here in the bed, I've repurposed this, which was meant to be the pea frame. You can actually see in the soil. I tried to do some direct sowing. Let me get my shadow out of the way. And yes, across the surface of the soil there, you see all the peas, which apparently the mice didn't actually want to eat, but they have dug up and just scattered everywhere. So that's fun. That was the third try there. So no peas along here, I don't think. And, you know, I thought, sod it. I've got a few cucumbers and some more tomatoes. This is Green Doctor and Goat Bag, I think, that was sent to me by Jessie. And I just bung around. See, it's not a massive support, but if you get a few stems of the cucumbers and you get the tomatoes going, we might get something. It's better than nothing. And more outdoor stuff. Oh, there's one of the little dahlias has just about survived. The Sluggergeddon, almost. But out here in the small kind of greenhouse bed, or the bed next to the greenhouse outdoors, I've got, again, some tomatoes, some cucumbers, and these are the bushes. So these are mostly Roma. So we've got 4 Roma in here. This one, which has gone a bit... Where are you going? You're trying to escape. I need to tie this one in. Definitely need to do a bit of side shooting on these. Yes, completely nameless, which is why I did that video. This is a Rosella, which it's meant to be really, really good. Meant to taste absolutely incredible. So hopefully we get a nice little showing from this bed. The sunflowers, unbelievably, have started growing. And actually, I thought they were going to get slugged. So they might have a bit of an impact on the tomato harvest, but very cool to see, very happy to see. Not such amazing scenes on this L bed. All of the yin yang that I put out, completely dead. Thankfully, I had some more yin yang seeds, but the Christmas lemur that was sent to me by Audrey from Real Food Comes Dirty, kaput. And I didn't realise I'd planted all of my seeds. I saved a load of seed from last year, and I thought, oh, they're really quick growers, so I thought they'd be okay, but apparently slugs just had them much quicker than they could actually grow. Like, there's a few kind of corpses here. Oh dear me, what a shame. There's one holding on for dear life. But you can see, Sluggergeddon, full impact. There were a couple of courgettes, I think, that were in here, or squash plants that have gone. We've got this one. Oh, slug food on its way out. But these have actually started growing a little bit, at least. Whether or not they're going to outcompete the slugs, I'm not sure. I exactly knew that this was going to happen. I predicted it. I knew. So I put so many out so close together. I was like, they're probably not going to make it through Sluggergeddon, which is a bit of a shame. But there are a few there. They might be okay. They might be okay. You never know. I don't know why. I'm finding it so hard to grow courgettes and squash. You know, the last 2 years, when I've put them out, they just sit there. These have been in the ground for 3 or 4 weeks. They should be gigantic. and I'm giving them a good enough start to life, I think. They're in these big container-wise cells. There's a lot of compost in there for them to get their roots into and get away. They've normally got a good few sets of true leaves. I mean, these are a bit later, so they've really had the heat of the greenhouse, and I need to start hardening them off. So maybe this is an idea of why I'm not getting it perfect, but in years past, the first few years of gardening, I would just stick them in the ground, 1 or 2, and it was in kind of a bed like this, and they would just rocket away. And by June, mid-June, I had these gigantic plants. I've got one bit of footage that you're probably seeing now. It's one of my favourite shots I ever took in my first year of gardening, and I was just wowed. It was mid-June, and I was wowed by these courgette plants, and I've just, it feels like every year it's getting a little bit harder, and I've been having kind of second thoughts about my no-dig approach, because I was thinking, what was different in that first year? Why did I have so much success? Why was that first year of gardening such what felt like a fluke? And I don't know, I could be wrong, but that was the first year that I dug the soil and incorporated compost into the soil. And it feels like, every year that I don't dig the soil, it's becoming harder. I mean, harder as in more difficult, but also harder physically. The ground is just becoming like concrete. I was doing some work, and I stood on one of these beds, and it doesn't look as bad as it did because I did some hoeing the other day, but I put my foot down and I could just feel there was absolutely no give in the soil whatsoever. It's not soft, it's not pushing down, it's just rock hard. It's like stepping on pavement or concrete, It's really given me second thought about, maybe I think what I'm going to do, because I've just ordered 50 more bags of well-rotted manure, I think what I'm going to do is probably do some digging. And what I might do is, dig in one half of a bed and leave the other as a mulch and see if there's any difference. It's because I've just got a little feeling in the back of my mind that maybe if I start digging and incorporating the material in underground, it's going to kickstart that process. And when I start planting crops out, they're just going to love it. And I'll tell you one of the reasons. The neighbours, all of my neighbours. So I've got kind of 3 or 4 neighbours who have all just been digging in manure over winter. And oh my God, I did a little plot tour of, went round with some of them recently, and flipping hell. Just crops that I've never seen anything like it, their success. So this is the way I normally walk out, okay? And this lass, she just took on this plot. Winter time, this was completely overgrown, all kind of tall grasses, died back over winter, but all this work that she's done. And I walked past these the other day, and she's harvested them now, but broccoli the size of my head, way bigger than the size of my head. And I couldn't believe it. And so many of my neighbours have done exactly the same thing. They've dug, they've incorporated well-rotted manure. This is Mike, my good friend Mike. Look at the size of his brassicas in here. He planted these out kind of March, April. Look at that, look at it. What's going on? What? I know Mike won't mind me showing his, but yeah, just what, I can't believe it. It's I see their cabbages are going in when they're just little like mine. I mean, mine went out a little bit later, sure, but everyone else they go in the ground and they're just like, yeah, let's go, it's time to grow. Mine just kind of sit there like, oh, what do you want me to do? He's just looking a bit poorly, doing really, really nothing at all. And I feel like that's what all my crops are doing, apart from my peas. Really, that's the only thing that has actually grown this year. I suppose that little bit of beetroot has finally started going, but look at the size of my cabbages in comparison. This is a volunteer lemon balm, loads of calendula, which is really nice. Spring onions taking absolutely forever. Lettuce growing very well. Broad beans going very well, to be fair, as well. The beans over here doing nothing. I mean, not all the salad gets going quickly. Look at these little lobelia. At least there's something to smile about. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Digging, I think I might start trying it a little bit. It might just suit this clay soil, or the clay soil might need more organic matter working in there before then switching over to no dig. Look at this. This is one of my favourite things, and it comes back every year. This mutant chard. I bet so many people don't know that if you leave chard, it goes like this, an absolute triffid. And I tell you what, one of the nicest smelling flowers I've ever smelled. It's like honey. It's exactly like just opening a jar of honey. It smells fantastic, absolutely amazing. And it's so interesting. Anyone who comes, and I quite often do a little walk around with some of the neighbours, kind of showing them, oh, look at this, look at that. And they're always like, what? What is that, JB? What the hell am I looking at here? And it's mutant chard. It's really good for the pollinators as well. The hoverflies absolutely love it. It's very cool. We'll return to the polytunnel. We'll do the polytunnel at the end. But one other little thing I've done, it's not a lot, but I do have some more potato tubs on the go at least, which is fantastic. And the ones at the back are just about hanging on in there. Garlic, I think, ready to harvest, but it's going to be pretty paltry. I'm sure. Should we have a little look? Should we have a little look? This is probably the best looking one. Oh, that is light. Okay, this is slightly more stubborn than I was expecting. Got the foot on one side, knee on the other. The challenges of filming and gardening. Oh, look, the whole soil's coming out. Oh, do you know what? That looks all right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Shake, shake. Garlic. That's actual garlic. It's not rotten. White rot free garlic. Oh, look at that. That is amazing. I'm absolutely dumbfounded. I can't believe it. That's just supermarket garlic. It's looked really sickly, really slow all year. Started off, kind of went through winter in the polytunnel, came out, still got a bit cold. I just thought that would be nothing at all. We've got... I love gardening. I love this kind of surprise, you know, just when you think that something's not going to do anything. I've only just realised this one's got scape. Oh, it's the one I harvested. These have all got scapes. I'll take those today. What a nice surprise. Very, very pleased. The Big Bertha bed still hasn't really come to anything this year. Always been a bit unsure what to do with this, but we do have another fantastic show of salads. I've been giving these away. Look, this one's just bolted. That's a bit of a shame. I need to harvest probably all of these, which is classic salad glut, classic lettuce glut. I always call lettuce salad. Sorry if that's annoying. It annoys me when I edit the videos. Like, you're talking about salad, JB. You mean lettuce. Look at this, first sweet pea. This is one of the old-fashioned mix, nice deep purple. It's not perfect. Next year it will be much nicer. I think the soil level, looking a bit low, is not doing this any favours. I did put a little Cerinthe in here, which turns out I don't really love. I've got some of these nice cosmos as well that definitely need a dead head. But all of the little things in the front you can't really see because they're shaded. But a work in progress for sure. Nice to see some sweet peas. Let me show you this blackberry bush. I was talking about this on our Potty Mouth live show, and I don't tend to include this in the tours because I just forget about it. It's sort of on this shared path with the apple tree behind it. Really need to. I think this year I'm going to cut this thing right back because it just goes absolutely crazy. But on here, looks like a good year for the fruit actually. I don't know what this is. I've just called it a thornless blackberry for a long time, for the longest time, and it's just amazing. It produces these incredible sweet fruits. There's one ripe one on there. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe slightly underripe. And I'll tell you what, I'm terrible for remembering to prune it, for remembering to water it or take care of it. And every now and then you get a bad year, but this looks like a good year. And like I say, this one's not quite ripe. Tiny bit of tartness, but when these are properly ripe, oh, I've never tasted anything like it. That honey sweetness, exactly like I was describing with the pepper, actually. Just like candy floss. It really does smell like candy floss when you get a little harvest of these. At the moment, it tastes just like a blackberry. It's got that soft centre, but that tart kind of green apple-y blackberry taste. Still very nice. I do just love doing these videos. It really does feel like therapy, you know. I love it. I don't know what I'm doing with this bed. To be honest, I never really knew what I was doing. I think I'm going to make it into 3 smaller beds later on. That's a job for winter, but if anything, it is an interesting thing. It's something you almost never hear people say, but I think I might have a bit too much space, you know, with this allotment extension. And it's one full-size plot now. I get a lot of comments, people saying, oh my God, it's massive, you know, you got 2 full plots. It's just one traditional full-size plot. It just looks a bit bigger because of the way it's broken up with the orchard and the greenhouses and the polytunnel and that kind of thing. But I've got empty beds. You know, I've got all this space down here. I think this might be quite a good place to put the sweet potatoes, to be honest. It gets really good full sun as well. But I've got a few. There's one back there, a bed I've still not utilised. There's one that I didn't show you at the start, near the compost bays. And yeah, how often do you hear a gardener say they've got too much space? We never have enough space. So it's something I want to kind of fix. And when I was doing a bit of kind of planning early in the year with Veg Plotter, I did think, I was like, oh, there's a lot of space here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fill it. This bed actually on Veg Plotter was just potatoes. I said potatoes in the whole thing, and I decided that would be really foolish and a lot of work. And the potatoes that I've grown in the ground before come out quite powdery, which is why I'm doing the pots this year instead. But I did have an idea about how to fix it. And this is just a little idea that probably won't come to fruition, but I'm thinking this bit over here might be a really good area to focus some fruit production. There's a sour cherry tree here, which I'm probably going to take out. The pigeons eat it all if you don't guard it, but the actual cherries themselves, not really for me. But this might be a nice area to start fruit production, because most of the stuff here I don't really use. You know, most of the space here, there's a few flowers over there, but it's not great. And maybe if I could take that and make some fruit, that would be quite good use of the space. And quite easy to kind of protect, you know, put 4 scaffolding poles on the side, give it some good netting, protection from the birds and the critters. Flipping rhubarb, gigantic. The asparagus, still looking pretty okay. A few people said you probably should support that, JB, but you know, who cares? Who cares? There's more important things to do. Oh dear me. Oh, I've got some ripe gooseberries and down there, nice little dahlia flowering. But this is what I mean. There's an empty bed here. Didn't really know what to do with it, so I haven't done anything. These gooseberries. This is my sickly gooseberry plant. I'm not sure why it is sickly. It just always has been. And it's interesting that these haven't been eaten, because I haven't protected the gooseberries because, you know, hay fever hit and it was on the to-do list and it hit the bottom of the priority. So there's not a single gooseberry on here because the pigeons have had them. But they've left the sickly ones, which does make me think this might not be great. Oh, yep, no, not great. Oh my God, that's really, really quite horrible. I imagine a pigeon tasted one of those and then went, no, thank you. Got some nice bindweed flowers in here. Oh, they're lovely, aren't they? Don't look. This is successful. I think I showed these. The parsnip germination, very good. Interesting how these 2 rows are fantastic and this one's a bit weaker. Nice little volunteer cosmos as well. But yeah, we do have some success at least. These 3 beds, once again, a bit of a, That's all I can do. I'm like walking around and 1 second I'm high and the next I'm low. Kind of describes the gardening year for me. The peas, like I say, these are fantastic. The alderman peas, just about ready for cropping. Now they've been slowly maturing on the plant. I didn't want to get them too early. I want to get them, yeah, the ones at the bottom, really nice and fat pods on there that are ready for kind of shelling. Looks like a pigeon has probably sat in here. We found a pigeon sat in the sweet peas in the garden this morning. Excuse you. What are you doing? What are you doing in there? Looks really shocked. And this looks like, yes, big fat pigeon has come along and sat in here. Doesn't look like they've been eating the, I don't know what they eat, because it's not the pods. I think maybe they eat the shoots or there's some insects on there or something. But that's a bit of a shame. I might need to tie that in. Add that to the to-do list. One thing I did do, come down in a full-on gas mask and gave everything a good trim and a mow and you got to do it once a week basically. If you want your plot to look nice at this time of year, once a week, once a fortnight, you've got to be on this trimming. And yeah, I'll be doing that again this weekend, I think. I did plant in here, in one of the Fort Fox, you can see, just shackle. I just realised I showed this in the video like 5 minutes ago probably and didn't explain it. This is just some bits of wood I've got lying around. I thought maybe It might put things off from digging in here, but it didn't. Look at that, a massive crater, and yeah. A lot of the leeks have been dug up. I put some beetroot in here that isn't growing, so I won't show you quite too closely because it's embarrassing. Just, you know, oh, what's the bloody point? Let me show you the leeks. Tiny little things. Meant to go out at pencil thickness, but they weren't doing much. They were starting to get eaten by slugs, for goodness sake, so I thought, hey, let's chuck them out. We've got some nice flowers, onion flowers from last year that are about to pop, and they'll be really nice for the bees at least. There's a volunteer lettuce down here. Oh, here's the beetroot. This actually got, oh, it's in there. It's exactly on that line of shade. Ta-da! Yeah, these got pulled up by birds or a fox or something. In fact, there's some missing. They've just been pulled up entirely, and probably there was a whole row here. They've gone. Never mind. Yeah, I said this in the last video, but fox defense is definitely on the to-do list. Oh yeah, they've been digging in here as well. And these onions, exactly the same as last time. They're just not growing. I don't know why, but this is what I'm talking about, you know. This is brand new bed. It was no dig originally. There's a little bit of material on the top. This is kind of mostly actually been taken from the polytunnel when I was digging it out. So I put it all in wheelbarrows. A lot of it's gone on here just to start raising that level because I want to create proper raised beds on here. When I was talking about digging, I was thinking that was going to be mainly on the other ones. These should be just raised beds, you know, they should be full of really nice kind of almost compost material or topsoil or something like that. I'm planning to raise that level over time, probably with a lot of the composted manure. So these shouldn't be too much of an issue, but it's another example. I didn't dig this bed. I started this bed when I took over the second plot as a no-dig bed. All three of these as a no-dig. And sure, you've got some things that love it, some things that get away, like the peas, but that feels like the exception to the rule, you know? The leeks have gone in, they haven't moved. They've looked exactly the same since they went in. The onions just haven't grown at all. We do have some carrot growth at least, but yes. Started the video and I was meant to be like, yeah, I've done so much this week, and I'm kind of just rehashing a lot of the same upsetting things that I took you around and looked at last time. I apologise, but there is fantastic news like we've seen in that first greenhouse, and there is fantastic news well, there's a mixed news in this polytunnel. So let's talk about the mystery damage. It's time. You've seen the thumbnail, and this is my current defense, right? So you might have seen me knock up these defenses a little while ago, and I was like, yes, they're kind of temporary. They weren't planned to be temporary, but I realized very quickly they weren't going to be that effective, especially against rodents, right? So this mesh is quite thin, but a mouse could almost definitely get through here. Now what I've got is just a rake leaning up on the inside, and basically the weight of that is enough to just hold this in place. But it's not actually attached to anything. So to actually get in here, I mean, this is genius, if you ask me. Absolute genius stuff. Because when I made these, I was like, oh, I don't actually know how to hold this in place. And then I thought, oh, just lean up the rake against it. But to get in here, all I've got to do is basically that. Push it inwards, lift it up, get the chicken wire caught in your crops, brilliant. And then put that somewhere for later. And that was born out of necessity when the temperature skyrocketed and I hadn't made the proper hinge doors yet. I was like, I need this open because I don't want to come up twice a day to open and close it. And I have to close this because otherwise the foxes, the wildlife will get in and just wreak havoc, right? So I got that set up and I was pretty happy with it, pretty content, nothing was going to get in. But then I arrived the other day. So the polytunnel planting, 99% complete. We've got all the tomatoes, all the chilies, and down here I put a few chilies in the ground. And I strung them up nicely, but look, something, right, has done a load of damage. I've got 3 chilies, slightly tricky to see in the shade, but back here I've got my go-shoe. This was an amazing, healthy looking pepper and littered on the ground. Just these little twigs. Look at this. This was quite a few days ago now. You can see how shriveled up those leaves are. But it was such a healthy plant, had some really nice growth on it, really good peppers. Something has mullered it, absolutely mullered it. And I was showing a few people and sort of thinking, oh, what could have done this? My first thought was actually a bird getting in across the top, but I think looking at this, Looks a little bit rodenty, you know. You can imagine a rodent kind of chewing away at it, and I was thinking, oh, is it rats, is it mice? Because they could almost definitely climb that and go over it. A mouse could probably go through it, but it's just really weird because they've gone for these two and absolutely mullered them, but they've not touched the cucumbers, which are rocketing away, looking absolutely fantastic. This chilli is temporarily misplaced, I'll tell you why in a second. They haven't touched any of the tomatoes, which looking pretty good, isn't it? That first lot looking really good, and then these are a little bit slower. I'm not particularly sure why, but there's chilies galore. There's chilies all over the floor here. Still kind of, these are, okay. Well, this is new. I did not notice this. That looks like the same kind of damage. Interesting. What's even more interesting is I can't see where that growth has gone. So it might have been squirreled away somewhere by a mouse or a rat or something like that. Just looking around for any more damage. Some really stupendous growth on some of these peppers. This is a Sugar Rush Long Peach. I've just potted this up. There's a little bit of wilting at the back there, but that was fine this morning, so I know that's just a reaction. It's just a bit thirsty, but I can't see any more damage on here. One of the other big jobs that I did was getting the auto pots all finished up. So I took all of these out of the dividers. They were kind of 4 to a pot. They've all been potted up into their own pots, either into auto pots or these kind of full-size pots. And you can see there's a few gaps. There was meant to be 6 there and 6 there, and there's just 4 and 5. So that's where those other spares in the greenhouse are going to go. The chili grow peppers still looking really weird. Really light colour to their leaves. Something's not quite right there. I'm not sure what though, but I can't see any more of that damage, but there is still something getting in. And it's extra interesting because before we went to Manchester, I set up the trail cam in here, in the Polytunnel, facing that doorway, because I assumed, you know, this doorway and the peppers right down here, I assumed this is where it was coming in from. But it's interesting seeing the damage at the other side. The trail cam caught not much, it caught this. Okay, this is just me messing around with the door. You can see how awkward it is though, trying to do this from the outside. But this is really what we were looking for, a bit of nighttime activity. And this is just a very cute little baby fox. Seems to be minding its own business, certainly not scaling the defences and ripping apart my chili peppers. And that, just moving around there, is a badger. You just saw the little white bit of its face. And I've never actually caught footage of badgers on the plot before. I knew that we'd have them, but it is quite cool to see them. And that's it. That's my feet again. And the chicken wire catching on that irrigation tubing. That's all I got. So no culprit. No idea. No evidence of anything small getting in. And that's really thrown me off. I wasn't expecting to see more damage. But what I'm going to assume is that there's a mouse or a rat or something getting in here. And I might, you might have thought that a rat or a mouse maybe wouldn't have triggered the trail cam, but I know from much earlier in the year, mice were enough to trigger it. So maybe it was a bird, or maybe they were getting in the back. Either way, I know I need to do these doors sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of produce on here now, which is going to be attractive to whatever is doing that damage. And the good thing is I don't feel, it's not heartbreaking or anything. Those chilies that were in the ground are really just an experiment. And look, there's chili peppers galore. These 6 plants. So this one isn't in because I need to fiddle around with that valve, but this is my champion chili, just a really fantastic, healthy plant there. These are going to explode. They've got months left of growth, and I'm going to be drowning in chili peppers. So, I'm not going to cry about the damage that's been done to a few, but what I do want to do is make sure that it doesn't happen to all of them, and that it's a problem we can solve earlier rather than later. The tomatoes are just worth having a little bit of a closer look at. Really, really pleased with these. I did have a load of lettuce in here. There's still one lettuce to take. That's definitely bolting now, which is not a surprise given the heat of the polytunnel, but I have been pretty diligent. I've been on top of the kind of side shooting and that kind of thing, and twirling these round in the polytunnel. It's just those greenhouse ones that I've neglected a little bit. I did mention in an earlier video, unfortunately, the irrigation isn't working, but these are looking really, really healthy. They're doing what they should. You'll see there's a little bit of stuff at the bottom. I just wanted to leave this, look, evidence that I've been doing the side sheets, and I just wanted to show you this. My Tim's Taste of Paradise. The puny little tomato which went in the ground probably way too early. It is surviving, it's growing, it's moving in the right direction. And these tomatoes and the chilies and just the polytunnel in general this year is like the saving grace, you know. It's like, yes, there's always something to, whenever I visit the plot, there's always something to come and enjoy in the polytunnel, you know. So I'm so pleased we went to all the effort of getting it in, and it's bringing me a lot of joy. But there it is, folks, so the big catch up has been a lot. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper tier patrons. I can see that on my head, it's warm in there. Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, Andrew, Sarah, Louise, Dorcasaur, Andrea, Andre and Brett. Hopefully I'll see you again next time.